For today's DIY, we're going to be making over our old Nativity. We've had it for like 16 years. A few
there's been some casualties.
Pieces have suffered casualties.
This guy's been glued together like 8 times.
So we're going to re-glue them together and then we're going to give them a updated French country look.
So previously we've been using hot glue to glue these back together. These are old injuries, but they're coming back to haunt us because these were broken when I got them out of storage. So we're going to be trying construction adhesive and see how that goes. I just got a small bead around where the arm is broken off here. And I've removed all of the old hot glue. All right, and then just wipe it back off, all the excess, and we're gonna let him sit for a minute. That sets up in about an hour.
This nativity set is really special to me because Zeb's brother Ty, when we were newlyweds, he lived with us and we didn't have a ton of money that year and he knew I really wanted a nativity, but it just wasn't in the budget. So he went out, he was what, like 18 maybe?
Yeah, he was 18.
He was 18 years old, single dude. He bought the nicest nativity that the store had and then he came home and surprised me with it. It meant a lot to me because not many 18-year-old boys would care that their sister-in-law just really wanted and couldn't afford a nativity set, and he bought the absolute nicest one that they had. So we have had this out every single year since then, and even though it's a little rough for wear, I just want it to last a few more years. This year I've decided that I want it to raise it up a little bit. I haven't decided if it'll be on our dining table or coffee table, but I have this oak box that's been kicking around the shop for a long time and hasn't sold. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a new look by using the DIY Old and Gray. It's a water-based stain, it's all natural, and it can go right over the top of this existing finish because it's pretty dry. I would say most of the finish is gone.
And I am just using weathered wood in DIY paint. We're gonna give this a fun aged effect with some white wax when we're all done. We've done it on a couple other nativity sets and it looks really good. So this brush that I'm using to do all this little detail on these figures is called the Little Frenchie. It's made by Paint Pixie and you can pick that up at jamirayvintage.com. It's great for doing all kinds of fun little detail work and getting down in the cracks and the nooks and not using way too much paint to do it.
So if this was raw wood, I would go ahead and wipe this back, but it has a little bit of finish left on it. So I'm just brushing this over the top and giving it like an old barn patina, almost like you would with a glaze.
On the back here, this is starting to come apart, so I'm just gonna reinforce it as best I can, hopefully without blowing a nail all the way through this thing. Oh, it went right through. Might require some glue and some small staples.
So I like the natural look of this. I'm just gonna go ahead with a little bit of DIY white wax on my wax brush and just lightly kind of wax this to lighten it up so it fits more of my French country style. I don't know. So the back of this was just regular like cardboard and it wasn't very pretty, and this will be visible the way I display it. So I'm just taking white wax and going right over that cardboard to give it a much prettier finish. So we let these actually dry overnight because we kept trying to paint them while the glue was not quite dry, and then parts just kept falling apart. Sometimes you just have to step away. The next step is white waxing. I've got my DIY wax brush and I'm just gonna come through and just delicately, because I don't want them to come apart again, putting this white wax on here, and then Zeb is gonna clear wax them and buff them.
I'm standing by.
Yeah. If this was furniture, you'd probably let it sit a little bit before you buff it. We don't want that white wax to not be distributed evenly, so.
And I'm not going to use a ton of clear wax. The white wax is a sealer on its own. The clear wax is actually just to control it a little bit. So you can see it got quite a bit of white all over it, and we want to pull that back and leave actually more of the gray and just the white in the low spots.
You can use a lint-free rag. I've just got a paper towel here, and I'm gonna wipe some of that back before I hit it with the brush, just so that I don't get a bunch of buildup on the brush.
What he's saying is I was a little heavy-handed with the white wax.
It's hard not to be when you're doing a colored wax over a dark or a light color, depending on what color you're using. It's easy to get a lot on there, which is why we bring it back.
Now we could have wet distressed these too, but we didn't because the colors underneath were like multicolors. I just wasn't sure how that was going to look.
All right, I'm going to show you up close. I've got clear wax on the brush. You can see how it just kind of pulls that back off. And then the white wax will still continue to sit down in the cracks and creases of this little figure.
If you wanted to control it even better, you could clear wax it first and then white wax it. I like a nice even coat of my white wax over my darker colors because I feel like it completely changes the color. Do you think Ty's gonna approve of this?
I don't think Ty's gonna really worry about it. He probably doesn't remember that we still have this.
Oh,
it's been a
he
long
asks
time.
me about it every year.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he's a little more sentimental than you are.
He is. He's very thoughtful with his gift giving.
He's a sweetheart.
Me, I'm like, oh, it's December 24th, better get something.
Oh, you're thoughtful. Remember the year that you bought me the KitchenAid?
Yeah, so that you could make me bread.
This is a good story. So I was pregnant with Odelia and I made a lot of bread from scratch back in those days. And my belly was getting bigger and I'm short, and so I couldn't get down inside the bowl to knead the bread. And so Zeb, we were really poor. He borrowed money from his mom, which I'm sure he never paid back.
I don't remember. It's
we
been
were
too long.
young. I think I was all of like 21. Anyways, we were not buying Christmas for each other, just like $10 or $20 on stockings. That's it, because we were that broke. And there was a box under the tree for me, and I opened it, and it was a mixer, and I started crying because I was like I was not expecting it. And it was really thoughtful because it was really hard for me to make bread at that time, and I really wanted a mixer. So I was probably also because I was hormonal.
Yeah, you have highs and lows when you're pregnant.
We had that mixer until last year.
Yeah, it finally gave out because it had made probably 1,000 or 2 loaves of bread.
Yeah, it lasted quite a while. It actually had been repaired and everything else. I probably could have repaired it again, but I really wanted the pretty mint blue one that I have.
We had moved on from red to mint. Because when I got it, your decor was like red and blue and yellow, and now it's kind of gone to white and grays and blues.
With a pop of mint.
And mints.
Still farmhouse, just different shades.
Just got my paper towel here. I'm going to show you wiping it back. And we get some of the color from the original too when you do that, because the wax, when you go to buff it, the wax will sometimes activate the DIY paint, especially on something that's slick like this porcelain. And that's okay. It's all just part of the look.
When you push hard and you buff it, you get highs and lows in the clay, and that combined with the white wax gives it a real stone look.
So if we waited for this to dry, because we're not waiting at all, we're just putting it on and then taking it back off. If we were to wait for this to dry, you would not get the paint removal that we're getting, but we're almost essentially wet distressing it by buffing it while it's still wet.
Also, it'd be much harder to move that white wax around.
You would basically have like a really white waxed look if you waited for it to dry.
This is a quick, simple DIY that really helped transform a nativity that is special to us but needed a little bit of an update. Hopefully it inspires you to look towards the Christmas decor you already have and incorporate it into your current design.
It's a great way to take a nativity or like something that's mismatched from the thrift store that you found and make it cohesive and bring it all together.
Be sure you're hitting up JamiRayVintage.com for the paint and products that we use today. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe to Jami Ray Vintage for more
DIY.